Welcome to the deep dive.
Mm.
If you've ever opened an academic article and just felt completely lost, well, you're definitely not alone.
Mhm.
Today, we're going to tackle those really dense, sometimes pretty baffling academic texts.
Yeah, they can be tough.
We're using a great source called C1 Reading Decode Academic Texts Like a Professor.
Mhm.
And basically, our mission here is to give you the tools, the strategies to go beyond just skimming.
Right. To actually understand them.
Exactly. To become a more critical reader, feel more confident, and sort of navigate these texts like a pro instead of feeling swamped.
Absolutely. That feeling of overwhelm is so common. You open a paper and it's just wall of text, obscure language, sentences that never seem to end.
Uh,
The main point feels buried. But there are reasons for this, specific stylistic things in academic writing. Understanding why it's written that way is, I think, the first big step.
okay, so let's unpack that.
Yeah.
What makes them feel like such a slog sometimes? The source mentions a few key things. It's not always the ideas themselves, is it? It's the way they're written.
Precisely, yeah. One big factor is something called nominalizations, which is basically turning verbs or adjectives into nouns. So instead of saying, they implemented the policy, which is pretty clear,
Right.
action, you get the implementation of the policy. It sounds more formal, maybe objective,
Hmm.
but it also adds this layer of abstraction that makes it harder to process quickly.
Huh. It sort of freezes the action, makes it static.
Yeah.
And then there's the passive voice. The source calls the missing actors ghosts, which I like.
Yeah, it's a good description.
Why did that make things harder?
Well, with passive voice, it has been suggested that you often don't know who is doing the suggesting.
Right?
And sometimes that's intentional. Maybe the focus is meant to be on the finding itself. But if you don't know who's making the claim, it's much harder to evaluate it, isn't it? You can't consider their perspective or how strong their evidence might be.
That's a really good point. It's like watching a play with invisible actors. And then just to add to the fun, the sentence length.
Yeah.
The source mentions sentences hitting 50 words.
Oh, yeah.
That's not reading, that's mental gymnastics.
It really is. These long multi-clause sentences put a huge strain on your working memory. You're trying to hold all these different pieces of information. And by the time you get to the end, you might have forgotten how the sentence even started. It just massively hinders comprehension.
So, okay, we've got these noun-heavy sentences, hidden actors, marathon sentences.
Oh.
No wonder people feel intimidated.
Yeah.
The source has a quick self-test, right, to spot this style.
Yeah, it's actually quite neat. A simple diagnostic tool. You take the abstract of a paper and just underline every verb.
Okay.
And if you find that a really high percentage of those verbs are forms of to be, is, are, was, were, been,
Mm-hmm.
that's often a pretty strong signal you're dealing with dense academic writing. It suggests the focus is more on states, definitions, abstract stuff, rather than dynamic actions.
Okay, that's super practical. A quick check. So now we know why these texts can be tricky. What can we actually do about it? The source talks about a 5-minute survey method. Sounds useful.
Oh, absolutely. This is all about being proactive. Before you even try to read it properly, you spend just 5 minutes getting the lay of the land.
Scouting it out first.
Exactly. It gives you a framework, a bird's eye view, which makes the detailed reading later much, much easier.
So what are we looking for in those 5 minutes? What's the mission?
First up, title and any subtitles. Really pay attention to those. They're usually designed to give you the main argument, or at least the topic and structure in a nutshell.
Okay.
So you can start forming a hypothesis about what the author's trying to say.
Right, like reading the map legend before you look at the map itself.
Right.
Makes sense. What's next?
Then focus on the first and last sentences of paragraphs. Especially in the introduction, the main thesis is often right there near the beginning. And the first sentence of other paragraphs is usually the topic sentence for that section. The last sentence might sum it up or transition. The source literally says, thesis lives here, often near the start.
So look for the main building blocks and the signposts. Got it. What else should we scan? Figures, tables.
Definitely don't skip those. Figures, tables, graphs. They often show the core data, the real story of the research, very efficiently.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can grasp the main findings faster from a table than from wading through pages of text.
Right, the visual summary cuts through the jargon. The source also suggested a little practice exercise for this.
Yeah, it's a good one. Take the first page of a journal article, look only at the headings and subheadings, and try to predict the main conclusion.
Okay.
It trains you to actively look for those structural clues and anticipate where the argument is going.
Cool. Okay, so we've done our recon, our 5-minute survey. Now we actually have to read it more deeply.
Mm.
How do we stay engaged? The source talks about annotating like a pro, treating the margins like a dialogue. I like that idea.
It's so important. Annotation shouldn't just be passive highlighting, you know?
Hmm.
It's about actively talking back to the text, questioning it, connecting it, processing it.
And there's a symbol system suggested to make that dialogue more pointed, more structured.
Yeah, a few simple symbols can really help guide that interaction. Like, you use that when you think, I don't buy this, or you find something unconvincing, or just have a question.
Okay, the skeptical mark.
Exactly. Then is for marking key evidence, the really important bits that support the author's main points.
Got it. Crucial stuff.
And AT is for making connections, maybe connecting an idea to another theory, or even just another part of the same text, like this links to what they said on page 3.
I can see how that makes it way more active. You're not just reading, you're like building a map in the text. The source used Foucault's panopticon as an example.
Mm-hmm.
That's the prison design idea, right? Where everyone could be watched.
Exactly that. The idea of surveillance leading to self-discipline because you might be watched. So if you're reading about it, you'd underline key terms like visibility or internalized gaze.
Okay.
Now, if the author makes a big claim like, this explains all modern power structures, you might jot in the margin. Like, really, all of them? Seems a bit strong.
Right, questioning the scope.
But then if they provide a really compelling example, maybe about CCTV or something that clearly supports their use of the concept, you'd mark that with esches.
Okay, key evidence.
And if it reminds you of, say, theories about social media and how people perform online, you draw an arrow, and arrow, right, connects to digital self-surveillance.
Yeah.
You're actively breaking it down and linking it up.
That makes a really complex idea feel much more manageable. Okay, shifting gears slightly.
Yeah.
Inference questions. Those can be tricky in reading tests or just understanding implications. The source has a hack for this.
Yeah, influence questions test your ability to understand what's implied, not stated directly. The answer's hidden between the lines.
Okay, so how do we find it? There's a 2-step strategy.
Yep. Step 1, restate the relevant bit of the text simply. In your own words, make sure you get the literal meaning first.
Okay, simplify it.
Step 2, ask yourself, what must the author believe to say this? This gets you thinking about the underlying assumptions needed for that statement to make sense.
Okay. What belief is necessary for them to write that sentence? That's smart. The source had an IELTS example, right?
It did. The text was something like, scholars increasingly question neoliberalism's sustainability.
Okay.
The question is, what does the author imply? So step 1, restate. Experts are more and more unsure if neoliberalism can last long term. Step 2, ask, what must the author believe? Well, they must believe that neoliberalism may have flaws, or there might be problems with neoliberalism.
Right.
The source makes a good point, though. An answer like neoliberalism is evil is too strong. The text doesn't state that. It just says its sustainability is questioned.
So, logical deduction, but don't overreach. Stick to what's actually supported, even if implicitly.
Got it. Okay, last thing. Making this all faster, more efficient. Speed drills. This isn't just about skimming, is it?
No, not at all. It's about building efficiency and training yourself to quickly pinpoint the most critical information. Timed exercises help build that focus.
And there's a specific 3-minute drill suggested.
Yes. Set a timer for 3 minutes. Task 1, quickly survey the text headings, first, last lines, etc., like we discussed.
Okay, quick survey.
Task 2, write down a single sentence summing up the main idea, the gist.
1-sentence summary.
Task 3, identify one potential author bias. The source gives an example like maybe they rely too much on Western examples or they only cite sources that agree with them.
So combine speed, synthesis, and critical thinking. That's pretty neat.
It's a great workout for your reading muscles. And the suggestion is to practice this with good quality sources like The Economist or Nature articles.
And then check your understanding against online summaries. Exactly. See how well your 1-sentence gist matches up. It gives you immediate feedback.
Okay, so for everyone listening, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to grab an article, maybe something you found tough before, and try that 5-minute survey method. Just scout it out first.
Yeah, see how it feels. And definitely try out those annotation symbols. We'd love to hear about your wildest annotation, the most interesting connection, or the biggest question mark you made. Share it on our Discord.
Yeah, please do. And looking ahead, our next deep dive will switch from reading to writing. Well, vocabulary, actually. C1 vocabulary. From very good to exemplary. So helping you find those better words.
It should be good.
But the key takeaway today from the source is really important. Read critically, not just quickly.
That's the core message. And hey, if you want a quick summary of the annotation techniques, we made that grad school annotation cheat sheet. Just send us a DM on social media at Deep Dive Podcast, and we'll get it to you.
Perfect. Because ultimately, this isn't just about getting through academic papers faster. It's about engaging deeply, questioning, connecting, unlocking that richer understanding that comes from really wrestling with complex ideas.
Well said.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.